You ever hear a story that just sticks with you, like no matter how many times you try to explain it, it still doesn't make sense? This one's like that. A little boy playing outside his grandparents' home in the middle of the Australian outback. One second he's there, the next, gone. No sound, no struggle, just gone. And what comes next will make you question everything you thought you knew about missing person cases. This is the story of Gus Lamont, a bright 4-year-old who vanished from a remote sheep station in South Australia. Now, I know missing child stories are always heartbreaking, but this one is different, because here there were no witnesses, no evidence, not even a single clear footprint that could tell searchers where he went. It's like the earth just swallowed him whole. And what makes it even harder to believe is how quickly everything happened, how a moment of calm turned into chaos that still echoes today. It was late afternoon, the golden hour when the sun hangs low and everything glows red and dusty. Gus was playing outside near a pile of dirt by the homestead, his grandparents keeping half an eye on him while getting dinner ready. You know how kids are curious, fearless, full of energy. Out there, surrounded by endless bushland, there was space to run, to explore, to imagine. Then came that quiet moment, the one that changes everything. His grandmother called him in for dinner. No answer. She calls again, still nothing. At first, maybe she thought he was hiding, playing a game. But when she stepped outside, looked around the yard, and didn't see that tiny blonde head anywhere, that's when the panic kicked in. Minutes later, the whole property was in motion, family shouting his name, running in every direction, scanning the horizon. You can almost feel that sickening dread building with every unanswered call. The outback is unforgiving, open plains, rocky gullies, hidden holes, and temperatures that drop fast after sunset. Out there, every minute counts. By the time local police arrived, it was already dark. Flashlights cut through the dust, helicopters scanned from above, even trackers were brought in. And yet nothing, not a cry, not a clue. It's as if the desert itself decided to keep it secret. One searcher would later say, "It's like he just vanished into thin air." And honestly, that's what it looked like. The land gave no answers, only silence. But if the ground didn't take him, someone or something else might have. And that's where this story starts to twist. Because before we can understand what happened to Gus, we have to understand where it happened, and how this remote, almost forgotten corner of the outback hides dangers that few outsiders could even imagine. That's where we're heading next. Before you can really understand how a child could just disappear, you have to picture where this all happened. Because this wasn't some busy neighborhood or even a quiet rural town. This was the edge of nowhere. A place so isolated that if you scream, the only thing that answers you is the wind. The Lamont family's sheep station sits deep in the South Australian outback, miles and miles of red earth, thorny scrub, and silence so thick it feels alive. No nearby neighbors, no streetlights, no sound of passing cars, just the constant hum of insects and the occasional cry of a bird slicing through the emptiness. It's beautiful in that wild Australian way, but it's also brutal. And for a little kid like Gus, it was both a playground and a danger zone. Now imagine growing up there. Days start early with the sun blazing before breakfast. The air smells like dust and sheep wool. There's no Wi-Fi, no playground, no corner store, just open land and imagination. That's the life Gus knew. He wasn't some city kid suddenly thrown into the bush. He'd visited his grandparents' property before. He was comfortable there, chasing lizards, climbing dirt mounds, collecting rocks like treasures. To him, the outback wasn't dangerous, it was home. But for adults, it's a place you never take lightly. Every direction looks the same, just endless orange soil and spinifex. A single wrong turn and you could walk in circles for hours. There are hidden creeks, sharp rocks, even old wells and mineshafts from the early settler days, forgotten holes that could swallow a grown man, let alone a child. So when Gus went missing, searchers knew what they were up against. This wasn't just a missing child case, this was a race against the land itself. Because out there, the terrain doesn't forgive mistakes. His grandparents were respected locals, hardworking people, tough as the country they lived in. You can imagine the heartbreak knowing that in all their years on that land through droughts, storms, and wildfires, nothing had ever broken them. Until that day. The one day a little boy went outside to play and didn't come back. And here's the haunting part: people who live out there say the land keeps secrets. Old miners, ranchers, Aboriginal trackers, they all talk about the outback like it's alive, like it chooses what to reveal. So when the search for Gus began, it wasn't just a mission, it was a fight against something ancient, silent, and merciless. And yet despite that harsh terrain, hope burned bright. Hundreds of volunteers showed up, strangers, soldiers, even pilots, all determined to bring Gus home. But what they found only deepened the mystery. That's what we'll dive into next, a vanishing act that defied logic. You ever hear those stories where searchers say, it's like the ground just opened up and swallowed them? Well, that's exactly how people describe what happened to Gus Lamont. Because what started as a simple missing child alert turned into one of the strangest disappearances in Australian history. It all began around 5 p.m. The sun was sinking low, painting the outback gold and crimson. Gus was last seen playing on a mound of dirt not 50 meters from the homestead. His grandmother had eyes on him. Dinner was almost ready. It was an ordinary moment until it was. Within minutes he was gone. No cry, no footprints leading away, just silence. And in that silence, panic spread fast. At first, the family did what any of us would: they searched the immediate area, behind the shed, the paddock, the creek bed. But as dusk turned to dark, reality hit hard. This wasn't a simple game of hide and seek. By nightfall, the police had been called. Within hours, a full-scale search began, the kind you only see in major emergencies. Helicopters circled overhead. Thermal drones scanned the ground. Volunteers from neighboring towns drove through the night to help. Even Aboriginal trackers, experts who can read the smallest mark in the dirt, joined in. And yet nothing. One small footprint, found about 500 meters from the house, matched the pattern of the shoes Gus had been wearing. But beyond that, no trail, no drag marks, no signs of distress. It was as if the footprint just ended. You can almost feel the disbelief of the search teams, hundreds of people combing every inch of that land. One rescuer said later, "We've covered it, he's not here." And that's what made it so chilling. How can a child disappear in plain sight, in a space with no roads, no traffic, and nowhere to hide? The days dragged on, temperatures dropped to near freezing at night, hope began to slip away. Every new morning brought another headline. Search expands for missing boy. Police fear the worst. And behind those headlines, a family trapped in every parent's worst nightmare. By the end of the week, authorities made the hardest call: the search would shift from rescue to recovery. No one wanted to say it out loud, but the odds of survival in that terrain after so many nights were almost zero. Still, there were no answers. No body, no evidence. Just the haunting question everyone kept asking: where is Gus? But if he didn't wander off, if the land didn't take him, then what did? Because what came next, the theories, the rumors, and the chilling possibilities would split the community and leave investigators chasing shadows. And that's exactly what we'll explore next in Theories in the Dust: Predator, Pit, or Person. We will stop here in this video, though we will continue in the next video. If you found this story as heartbreaking and haunting as I did, don't forget to hit subscribe. Because out here there are more stories like this, mysteries buried deep in the dust, waiting to be told. And maybe, just maybe, someone watching will help bring answers that the world's been waiting for.